Wow, such a great introduction. An alcoholic, a treatment counselor, and a drunk walk into a bar. Drunk says, "I'm here to forget my problems." The counselor says, "I'm here to tell you why that doesn't work." And the recovering alcoholic says, "I'm here. I used to come here for all my answers to find out that I was the problem." And I was asking all the wrong questions. So that's my segue into it. Thank you, Osprey, for giving all of the back history to this Seattle group. I mean, this is, such an amazing deal. My name is Steve R. I are an alcoholic. Absolutely. Thanks for asking me to do this. This is a real honor because if you're like me, when I got here, I was my ass was falling out. That's not a cuss word. And for many years, Alcoholics was struggling to find a solution for a seemingly hopeless, I should say, problem with alcoholism. And we found this in Alcoholics Anonymous. But this thing is, life and death for a lot of us. So it's important that I pay as much tribute to Alcoholics Anonymous as I possibly can. It may sound like I'm reading from a script, because I am. I am doing this because it's important that I try to make sure that I get the stuff out here that needs to be said about the Seattle group, my recovery, and how that all blends together. So fortunately, I've been taught that when Steve asked me to talk for 3 hours and 45 minutes, I was able to reduce my speech down to 67 pages and, a podium list. And thanks for that. I appreciate that. I didn't have enough page on my, never mind. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Steve, and I'm not a big speaker, but what I am is I'm a drunk. And that uniquely qualifies me to stand up here. I got sober in Renton in 1991. I'm not here because I got shit figured out. Shit, I said that. Stop that. I'm not here because I got it figured out. I'm here because alcohol had beat me down to a point where I couldn't function. And I had nothing else I could do. So tonight is not just another speaker's meeting. This isn't about me. This is about the Seattle group and recovery. And that's why I'm going to try to follow the script as best I can, because it has the information that I can't remember. 85 years, 1941, April 19th, Seattle group, what we're here representing tonight, had their first meeting. And like it was read and Austri did such a great job of talking about, that was the beginning of Alcoholics Anonymous in Seattle. This is where it is right here. So 85 years ago, this started. And I'm going to tell you that the people who started Seattle, this Seattle group, they didn't know my name. They didn't know my wife. They didn't know my children. They never knew my sponsor, sponsees, home group, and the big thing, they didn't even know if Alcoholics Anonymous was going to survive. They were brand new. They didn't have the stats and the data that we have these days. We can show millions of people have gotten sober. They didn't have that to work with. So, but what they had is they had a willingness, and that's the big thing. This group, well, let me fall back on this for a second. They never knew that they were setting the table for a guy like me to come in here angry, sore, tired, beaten. I was afraid of everything. I had boxed myself in a corner, and I really didn't have any good solutions left. So, but Alcoholics Anonymous and the Seattle group almost died out in 1942, believe it or not. But if it wasn't for a couple alcoholics who kept showing up, kept the meeting open, kept trying to work for the purpose of staying sober. They needed help, they needed saving, and they didn't know how else to do it. So they kept showing up because maybe it would work. I don't know where I am. Doesn't matter. So what I want to say about the way Alcoholics Anonymous started here in Seattle is part of my recovery story too. You know, this Seattle group almost didn't make it. Seattle, AA almost didn't make it. Just like me, when I first showed up here, I didn't know if I was going to make it. I had no idea what was going on here. I had growing pains. Seattle group had growing pains. They had something that I didn't know about, and that was that they kept on returning for the primary purpose of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that was to stay sober. In the mid-40s, more groups were forming, Alcoholic Letters, and was helping newcomers, and they were sharing names and finding groups. And I also want to tell you that in 1985, 85 years ago, when this group started to today, they served a lot of coffee. Anybody want to take a guess? 46, the Google says 46,650,000 cups of coffee has been served since Seattle Group first opened up. That's 9.2 million gallons of coffee we have drank since then. What? Are you kidding me? Okay. No. Anyway, so that was the true beginning of what was happening here. Seattle Group was going through growing pains. They had to find rooms. They needed to learn how to expand. They had all of these wants with no direction other than God-given direction, because their communication was snail mail. You know, they were sending stuff back east, trying to get some information. In the meantime, they're just kind of out here floundering around, trying to figure it out. But you know, they kept coming back. 1946, the Central Committee organized in Seattle. Del A, which was one of the one of the four. He served as the chairman. Service took shape. This was not for power or prestige, but so the hand of AA could be there when somebody reached out. During those first 10 years, methods grew, meetings multiplied, people traveled, wrote letters, sponsored one another, carried the message, and Bill W. visited us here, played violin for us. It's in that really cool book. If y'all don't know about the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's in Sober in Seattle. It's in Our Stories Disclosed. There's some really good literature that explains all this, and it's fascinating to me, at least. By the early 50s, AA in Seattle had become something that 4 alcoholics who started that first meeting could have never imagined. They didn't have all the information. They only had enough faith to take the next right action. And that is exactly how recovery began in Seattle. So I was sick before I ever took my first drink. Alcohol was not my problem. It was actually my solution. Yes, thank you. I was spiritually inept. I was broken inside. I was restless, irritable, and discontent before I even know those words went together. And I thought that my background was my problem, you know. But I was raised in a loving, church-going family. They showed me support. They showed me everything I needed. It just didn't take with me. I don't know why. Why wouldn't it? I mean, you know, I'd sit here and tell you that I was, you know, I can't say I was abused. I can't say any of that stuff. I just was not comfortable with this stuff. It just wasn't me. So I was shown love, but I didn't know how to receive it. I was, you know, shown God in many different forms. I just didn't know how to accept it. And so I was missing a lot of information, and I was missing a lot of connections. So really it is that I didn't have all the information. And that sentence really matters to me today because it keeps me right size. Just a side note, do you guys know how many alcoholics it takes to screw in a light bulb? Doesn't really matter. Power shut off a month ago. I had opinions. I had defenses, explanations, excuses. I had resentments and judgments. I had a complete operating system built on fear, ego, self-will, all while having no peace at all. And when alcohol entered my life, it didn't create my insanity. It made me comfortable with it. And it quieted the noise in my head. It made me feel confident, connected, okay, even when I wasn't okay. It also gave me something to blame. I could blame people, circumstances, bad luck, the police, the judge, family, the job, and alcohol itself for ruining my life. As long as I had something to blame, I never had to look at myself. And this was a problem. Alcohol worked for me before it turned on me. And that's a part of my truth. It became my answer for everything. It worked until it became both the problem and the solution. This created a new scenario in my that my my solutions were now my problems, and now my problems were my solutions, and it was this vicious cycle of messed up thinking, insanity. It was at this point that it worked until it made me hate two things: change in the way things work. And that twisted me up. I don't know how, I didn't know that I was powerless. I didn't know I had a disease. I didn't know that my life wasn't working. All this time I thought I had a drinking problem, and I clearly didn't have all the information. On my 19th birthday, I shattered my jaw. That's what happens. After a full day of drinking Harvey Wallbangers, which is an appropriate name for the night's festivities. The plan, and I say that loosely, was for me to squat down, raise up, and inhale a massive amount of smoke from a substance that's an outside issue. Now, we had the plan. We put a giant 6-foot chair right behind me so I could come up. If I passed out, I'd just fall back, because we're safety-minded people, right? Problem is, I failed physics, and I fell forward. And I hit a pool table, and I went to a concrete floor, and I shattered my jaw. And so I went to the hospital to get my jaw wired shut. 8 days later, I showed back up at the scene of the crime. And somebody handed me a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I took it. Now, think about wires going through your gums trying to hold your jaw together. I shouldn't be doing anything. Took that drink of alcohol. It hurt so bad. It burnt so bad. I mean, it really felt like electric hot coils going through my gums. And in a moment of alcoholic brilliance, I found a solution, and that was to drink more because it fixed the pain. And I kept drinking until the pain went away. And I learned something, which was a problem. I'm crying for pain, man. I'm crying for a solution. And the only solution I can find is alcohol, which is my problem. And I'm in this vicious cycle of insanity. And, you know, today I call that powerlessness. Back then, that was problem solving. I'm going to tell you what, I got out of there okay, because I didn't feel nothing. Of course, they carried me home. I didn't feel no pain, that's for sure. I didn't feel anything. And that's that's just one of the tragic stories that we hear in Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's always fun to me. I shouldn't say that. It's always interesting to me how alcoholics, you know, when we get into meetings and we start hearing these tragic stories about people getting hurt, you know, losing their license and their car and their house, and how we all smile and we laugh and we just go, oh, great job, you know, because I needed that kind of nightmare-ish result for me to understand what the problem was. And I still, you know, I'm just a guy that likes to drink to consequences. And when those consequences get bad enough, I'll drink some more. My last DUI that I know about was 1990. Now, Seattle was in a terrible snowstorm. I don't know if y'all remember that. Maybe. I mean, buses were, you know, they couldn't run. The city was shutting down. Nobody had any business out there driving unless you were uniquely qualified. And I thought I should go help my friends because they were stranded. And I could do that for them because I'm a nice guy. And I had an Oldsmobile Delta 88 with plus track rear end. And I'm from Eastern Washington, so I knew how to drive in the snow. So I drove right down there. And I parked in front of the Denny's down on 4th. And it was cold outside, it's snowing, and it's warm in my car. And I thought, well, I should take a nap before I complete this noble task that I have set myself off on. And I came to wrestling in the snow with a cop. And I didn't know he's covered in snow. I'm covered in snow. I didn't know he was a cop. I mean, he was white like I was, you know, covered in this stuff. And but that's when the real coldness. That's when the fear, the chaos, the charges, the damage, the consequences, the charges, the remorse, the charges, and even more charges set in. And but even then, I thought I could still manage it. I thought I could explain it. I thought I could outthink it because I'd been doing that for a while. I had become highly skilled at talking to judges and lawyers and counselors and all that stuff because, you know, I could sound really remorseful as I'm standing up there. And I could explain to them why just the circumstances of my alcoholism. And if I'm not drinking, I wouldn't be doing these things. I'm really a nice guy. And, you know, they always looked at me like, yeah, okay, we should hook you up with something. And, but I never got charged with anything. I mean, I got charged, in this particular case I did, but in the past, I always kind of got off with no treatment, no AA, no nothing. This time was a little different. 3 days before court, I get a call. They had a bed for me. A treatment bed had opened up. Now, most people would call that divine intervention. I called it a scheduling conflict. I had some other things I was thinking I should be doing. And well, you never know who's going to enter your life, when they're going to enter your life. You don't know who it's going to be and what the impact's going to be. I had at the end of my drinking, there was a really good friend of mine. He was my best friend at the time, and we were hardcore drinkers together. His name was Terry. And me and Terry we were just burning it down, man. And he'd been in AA. He had some experience with this. So he was out on one of his tries, let's call it. And he started talking to me about how we should maybe get some help with our drinking. I think what he was doing is he was looking at me a little hard. You know, it's really rough when your partner in crime starts calling you a problem, right? And he suggested that we go to we go and get an alcohol assessment. And so I, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. I can go do that. Anybody could do something like that. And we went and got this alcohol assessment, and I passed. And that's the first time I've passed a test in a long time. Now, I didn't know what that meant, though. I didn't know when they called me an alcoholic. I already knew I was an alcoholic. They just confirmed it. So I thought, oh, my, I guess we're all on the same page now, right? And but when this court date came up, the things had been put into play. I'm going to tell you right now that Terry saved my life. Terry's the last guy I took a drink with. We both went into treatment a couple days apart, and he absolutely steered me into this program. And I don't think I'd ever made it without him. It's just the people that are put in our lives when they are. Yeah, we got sober, and he had 3 days on me. We joked around about, how we're going to just live with this for the rest of my life. He's always going to have 3 days on me, right? And then, unfortunately, he went back out a couple of years later. I tried to search him down. I tried to 12-step him back in. But since that day, I have not seen him since. And I love you, Terry, wherever you are, because I owe you so much, and it's interesting because you think about it, there's people that are put in our lives that are never going to get to see what they've done for us. And that's really, that makes it real, right? That's what this stuff is to me now, is it's just real. So they put me on this boat. They said, you should go over and go to treatment and don't drink when you get there, which I thought was a gray area. So I get on this boat and I feel like, well, I could drink on the boat while I'm there. Then I'll get off the boat and I'll go to treatment. And while I'm on there, I'm standing up there talking, or not talking, just sitting there minding my own business. And it's interesting how alcoholics can find alcoholics, right? I'm standing there with my can of liquid denial or my ice cold, self-pity and false courage. And this guy from across the way, he comes over with his can of whatever he had, and we toast it. And now we've got, we've each got a can of ice cold spiritual emptiness and tomorrow's regret, right? And he suggested, he goes, man, we talked, and he's going to the same treatment center I am. And he goes, here, He reaches in his pocket and he pulls out a cinnamon stick. And he says, if you chew on this, they will never know in there that you've been drinking. Now, this is my new best friend. Why would he lie to me? I took that thing. I chewed on it. I don't recommend that, just so you know. It was rough. And but I got to treatment, and they let me through the door. And as I was walking back, they said, you're going to have to spit that cinnamon stick out. And I spit it out in a garbage can, and I seen about another 10 of them laying there. So I didn't even know that was a thing, man. You know, I wasn't trying to be rebellious when I went in there and tried to drink all the way up to that point. I wasn't, trying to be clever. I ran out of ideas. I didn't know what else to do. This is completely odd to me. I went into treatment and, we held hands and we stood in a circle and we chanted some God grant me something shit. I couldn't remember. I said that word again. But treatment showed me something that I didn't know. Treatment showed me something where there were other people like me, and I didn't know that. All I knew is the alcoholics that I drank with. So it showed me a few things that I didn't know about myself. It taught me a little bit about being honest, surrendering and accepting some things I never thought I would ever accept. And because I didn't understand much of it. I mean, when I got out 28 days later, I'm confused. I'm not sure what to do. I've never been sober in my life. I don't know how this stuff works. So they suggested I get into an AA meeting, and I walked into Serenity Hall. And I walked in there, and there was 3 guys sitting there, and I felt at that point, just walking through the door and seeing these guys, like they understood me. Like, where have I been? Where have they been? Type thing. I don't know what's going on. I can't process this feeling because now I'm sober and I'm standing in a room with other people who know my pain, who know what I've been going through, and I can relate to them, and I can feel like I can say anything, do anything type stuff. And I really felt like I belonged. They give me a coffee and meeting and laughters and ashtrays to clean, which I'm not sure what that was all about then. But now I know that if I was wiping out an ashtray, I wasn't out there reaching for a bottle. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous gives us. It gives us an alternative to the way that we think and the things that we do. And they give me a place to sit down. They welcomed me in. They welcomed me back. I hadn't had that in a long, long time. And I found my first sponsor there. His name was Wild Bill, because it was going to take somebody wild to be around me. Anyway, and I needed this guy because he was wild, and he was wild about AA. He had good AA smarts. He knew what the big book said. He knew how to relate what the big book said, and he knew how to deal with wild, crazy people like me. And that's the guy I needed. He, too, just like Terry, was put in my life to save my life. And I had a purpose all of a sudden. I felt like I belonged. I felt like I was being welcomed back. Hey, maybe everything isn't so bad. So I got sober on January 19th, 1991 in Renton. My home group is a new purpose group. I have a new old sponsor. You can take that however you want. He's a great guy. He's older, I should say, older than I am. I shouldn't say old. I should just say he was older than me. because I needed that. I have sponsees. I have a service sponsor. I'm involved with the service structure of Alcoholics Anonymous on many different levels because I have to be. These things were suggested to me, which I'm not really good at taking suggestions. At least I hadn't been up to this point, but somehow I had developed enough willingness to maybe listen and maybe think that there was a better idea. And my sponsor, well, he was hardcore. He was hardcore, and that was the only way this guy was ever going to understand what was going on. And he and Alcoholics Anonymous helped me see the biggest problem was me. And when I told him about this, I thought, well, you know, there's a lot of difficult people out there to deal with. And he says, well, great, then we should work on you first. And clearly he didn't have all the information. That's what I thought about this guy. He's crazy. He's wilder than I am. Oh, yeah, by the way, a son asked his dad, what's an alcoholic? And his dad replies, somebody pulls him out of trouble with a corkscrew. All right, never mind, man. Somehow, there's more. Somehow I had to change my thinking because I thought I was in control, but I had nothing but fear, ego, and my thinking that I thought I needed to be the director of the universe. And I heard a long time ago that it's like an ant on a log, you know, going down a raging river. And for a guy like me thinking that I'm steering it, you know, that I actually know how this log's going to go. And I had a captain's hat on and everything. This is what I came in here with. This is my alcoholic mind that I get to work with. Alcoholics Anonymous showed me a maintenance program, meetings, sponsorship, inventory, amends, and it taught me how to laugh at myself. I had to laugh about things I used to cry about. And I learned about Rule 62. And when I practice these things, the pressure drops and my perspective changes. When my perspective returns, I can and remember that I still don't have all the information. I just don't get it all. You know, it just doesn't come to me that fast. But once again, that sentence is important to me because I have to remember that I don't have all the information. Steps didn't teach me how to stop drinking. They taught me how to live. Step one showed me that it taught me that I was powerless and my life had become unmanageable. To be clear, powerless doesn't mean that we're weak or stupid or, you know, we lack willpower. When I was out there drinking, I had all sorts of willpower. I knew exactly who I was going to drink with. I knew how many. No, I didn't know how many. I knew what I was going to drink. And I figured, you know, I would just go ahead and limit myself to 2 drinks and I would have a good evening. The problem is somewhere along the way, somebody else took over. Somebody that wasn't me, they took over and my life went into the shambles once again. Step 2 showed me that maybe there was something greater that could restore me to sanity. This isn't a one-time thing for me. When I ask to be restored to sanity, I better be asking every day because I might wake up and forget that you know, the insanity is sitting out there waiting to creep back in if I'm not spiritually ready for it. So I want to make sure that I keep up on that. And that's where I also heard that a God small enough to be fully defined is not going to be a large enough God to take care of the problems I can come up with. And what they did is they changed something in me, because I had an idea of what God was, because I was raised in a church family and with love and everything. But somehow this changed me. I didn't need certainty all of a sudden. I needed willingness. And I didn't have to understand God completely to get sober. Pressure was off. I was able to take the time and find my own God that I needed in my life for that amount of, to get me through one more day. There's another part to that I can't say in here, apparently. I don't have a problem with God. I just, I have a problem not being Him. Step 3 asked me to turn my will and my life over to the care of God, even if I didn't have all the information. So step 4 through 9, it taught me to look honestly at myself, tell the truth, and be willing to change, ask for help, and repair the damage of whatever I had done in the past. Steps 10, 11 taught me that recovery needs daily maintenance. When I upon awakening, I should be doing some kind of spiritual reading. I should be doing some of that stuff, and that happens anywhere between 55 and 80% ish. Take a few percent one way or another. We do our best, right? And then 12 step taught me that I need to give away what was given to me. And so when I walked into AA, I thought I was only trying to save my life. I didn't know that generations of alcoholics that came before me were preparing a place for me when I arrived. More than 16,000 days before my sobriety date, alcoholics in Seattle were making coffee, answering phones, printing meeting schedules, opening doors, sponsoring newcomers, preserving records, and keeping this thing alive. They didn't have to imagine all of it back in 1941. They only needed to do the next right thing. That's why service matters to me. I serve as an intergroup representative for my home group. I go to Area 72 functions, even though I don't have a position there. I serve at my district, and I try to help out down here at Seattle Intergroup. That's not a resume. I'm not applying for a job, right? These are the things that save my life and keep me sober. And it's interesting because when COVID hit, we all got a new dose of Alcoholics Anonymous. Did you know that people got sober on the computer, on their phones? It's so hard to believe that could happen, but that was a thing, and that just means that, Alcoholics Anonymous, once again, is willing to go to any lengths. We try to do what we have to do to save our lives, to be able to carry the message to the still suffering alcoholic. And that's what we did. We came up with Zoom. We were coming up with all sorts of ways of carrying this message. Today, I have more than 3 decades of sobriety. My life is not perfect, but it is real. I couldn't claim that before. I've been present for my family. I've been a husband, a father, a sponsor, a friend, terrible sponsee. I've been a member of the community. I've been able to hold the hands of people I love as they took the last breaths. My brother and my dad both died from this disease. My mom from leukemia and old age. But I was there. I was accountable, and I was able to hold their hands and feel the love. which was something that if I was out there, I would have not been able to do. And all right, you're right at the end of it here. So I want to say that I do not have all the information, so I try to stay grateful, so I can be useful, so I can be accountable. I've had the privilege of sitting with newcomers, watching their eyes change right before me. It says it in, I think it's page 89. It best describes it by saying, seeing the eyes of men and women open their eyes to wonder as they move from darkness into light. I got to see that. I got to feel that, and I've got to experience that with my sponsees, with people that are new in here. And I want to say, if you're new in here, you don't have to understand everything tonight. You don't have to have all of these things, don't have to happen tonight. If you want recovery, it's at your next AA meeting. And it's with your sponsor. And it's keeping showing up and staying in your hula hoop. Which if you don't have a hula hoop, you should try to draw one in a circle and worry about everything that's inside that hula hoop and don't care about the stuff outside of it because it's too much. I mean, it's hard enough to just deal with the stuff that we got going on in our lives. I was born in 1960. I was reborn in 1991 to a gift, to something I never knew existed. And the people who started Seattle group number 1 never knew me, but they helped save my life. They never knew my story. They never knew my family. They never saw me walk into Serenity Hall for my very first meeting. They never watched me take a service commitment. They simply stayed sober, and they helped the next alcoholic, and they left the doors open. And now it's our turn. This is what's important for us to work on today, right? Not tomorrow, now, right? Because that's how important Alcoholics Anonymous is. None of us had all the information when we got here. We just had enough pain to find the willingness to try something new. And Alcoholics Anonymous has given us, especially me, gifts beyond my wildest dreams. I didn't know that a loser at life like me could stand up here with the amount of sobriety I have, to be honored to be able to speak and talk in front of people. That's a gift. It's a gift that only Alcoholics Anonymous gives me. And so they never knew you and me, but they prepared a chair for all of us. So when we finally show up, there's room where the message of Alcoholics Anonymous could be heard, felt. We have a chance to get some more information about the things, about the life we had and the life that is available to us now. So, I don't have anything to say except for, Alcoholics Anonymous, you don't have to take my word for it. There's enough examples in this room and at other meetings to find this information, to see the miracle that happens and that's happened and is happening on a regular basis. So I can't tell you how grateful I am that I got to stand up here and talk with you for a little bit. I hope that didn't sound too much like a robot reading a script, but it really is, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Every morning I wake up, if I'm doing a solid, I'm waking up and I'm asking for intuitive thought and or decision. I'm asking for the right direction because based on my history, and I don't want another DUI, I need to have this thing at the front of the table for me. So I love you all and thank you.
Thank you.